think it's time to start moving. That was easy. Let's get out of here. I wanted to explain a little bit about the trip I was on last week before finals. We spent a week away. This was missed curriculum time. We weren't in class. We were missing CBLs. But in my opinion, the experience was worth missing that week of class. I talk a lot about balance, and in my previous video, I was studying a lot, but this is one reason I was studying so much. I spent an entire week right before finals, not in class, and I actually wasn't even able to get any work done just because of how busy the week was. I still really believe in spending time outside of school to pursue things and experience things that you love. For me, this week was all of that. So the first thing we did on Monday evening is that we left Prince George and headed over to Fraser Lake. The physician who we were with used to live in Fraser Lake, so we ended up having dinner with some of his friends from when he lived there. And it was really interesting because this was on Easter Monday. Everything was closed, but the staff of the restaurant came in just to make food for us because we were in town. And I think that'll hopefully give you a sense of what a small community is really like. We spent the night in Fraser Lake, and then in the morning we went to Stellarton to the health center for our first day of clinic. One of the community members there has taken pictures of a lot of people and found archives of old pictures, and the entire inside is decorated with so much of their history, which was really nice to see. Another part that I really like is that the kitchen there is absolutely beautiful, and I've never actually seen a health center with a kitchen in it. But again, it really speaks to the community aspect of the way that the health center is run. Patients come in, they're able to see the doctor, they're able to wait in the kitchen, and it's a place of gathering, a place of food, a place of laughter, and a place of belonging. And that's one thing that I really took away from the entire week, because this was a common theme that I saw. The health center was not just a place where you go, see the doctor, and leave. It was a place where people were welcome, and it was a place where people wanted to be because they felt like they belonged. Our day in Takla was short. We had an amazing lunch. The community members even packed us up some fish to take with us on our way to Fort St. James. So in the evening, we went to Fort St. James, and because we were with the Dean of Medicine, all the physicians in the community basically got together, had a big dinner for us. In the morning, we left at probably about 6:30 again and took a 2-hour drive on a logging road up to Yukuchi. So even though this was the beginning of April, we were lucky because we just had a really big snowfall and the roads were quite frozen. So the drive up the logging road wasn't the worst that it could have been. Our time in Yukuchi though was interesting because this was the first time I really got a sense of how remote some of these communities are. A lot of people in the community have to go down to Fort St. James, sometimes even Prince George, just to get groceries and medications. Another thing that a lot of people take for granted is that we can go to the nearest health center to see a doctor anytime, go get x-rays, go get a CT, anything we really need, and it's usually within max half an hour. Although a physician does go up there, in order to get investigations done, it's a trip down to one of the bigger towns. And there are so many barriers that I can't even list them all. Weather, how bad the roads are, whether someone has a ride out to a city. Even while we were there, because of the huge snowfall that just happened, the town itself had to plow the roads in order to get out. It just really put things into perspective for me. We were only there for a day, but again, there was a really warm welcoming for us. The community prepared songs, dances, and also a big lunch for us as well. Moose and bannock is my absolute favorite now. I pretty much had it for every meal. We were only there for one day, but it was nice to get a feel of the community. So once we finished in Yakuche for the night, we headed up to Takla, which included going back down to Fort St. James, going all the way around the lake, and then up to Takla. Going to these communities really puts an emphasis on how remote they are. There isn't really a place to get groceries, but it also really showed us how important and how prevalent community is. It's really tight-knit, and it's so clear to see once we were there. Another really amazing part of all of this is that the physician who we were traveling with has been going to these communities for probably 10 years. And before I went, I have to admit that I had a pretty bad perception of fly-in doctors. I thought they go in for a day, they leave, there's no continuity of care, and it's just a rotating basis that maybe does more harm than good. But after spending time there for the week, I realized how important the relationship was between the physician and the entire community. This entire system runs on the basis of telehealth. What happens is that the physician who is working there has an entire roster that is out in the communities. So he'll go visit for 1 week a month, and then he goes home and then has one-on-one appointments with the patients through the telehealth system. Telehealth is something that's really important, but how much good does it actually do? Well, from my time there, it's actually really amazing. It's difficult to actually treat patients, in my opinion, with telehealth alone. But the system that's in place really allows relationships to be forged. It's refreshing to see a physician go into a community who absolutely loves what he is doing. Every meal that we had was cooked by the community. It was so nice to have that type of welcoming while we were there. One other thing that was really neat was going ice fishing in Takla. The lake was stunning. There are a lot of places in BC that have beautiful scenery, lakes, mountains, but it's not very often that you get to see this type of view without anyone else there. There were no footsteps on the lake. Then we went out in the morning, 7 o'clock before clinic started, went out, caught some fish, and then we ended up eating that for dinner that night. And it's pretty cool to actually be a part of something like that. I know a lot of people get their food like that on a daily basis, and people do that quite often, whether they're out camping or whatever they're doing. But for me, that's not an experience that I have on a typical day. Overall, the entire experience was really great, and I can't say enough good things about doing something like this during your medical degree. There are certain experiences that you're going to have that change you as a person, that change the way that you want to practice medicine, and that change the way that you want to interact with patients. For me, this was one of those things.